left wing of the Democratic Party actually wants open borders and blanket amnesty for the undocumented living all across the country. Never mind, that would create a dangerous security nightmare and run up far more government debt. Liberal zealotry sees America as a nation driven by white privilege, wants to flood the USA with new citizens. The fewer restraints, the better. And it doesn't matter that Hillary Clinton might not be that extreme. She put forth no vision on immigration other than the status quo, which has been a colossal failure. Thus, Trump's tough guy approach to enforcing immigration law propelled his campaign, despite the unending charges of racism that came his way. So now the question becomes, what is a fair policy in this most emotional of arenas? For that, return to Australia, a nation of about 24 million people, but with a land mass almost exactly the same as America's. And we have 325 million people. So there's plenty of room to roam down under. Australia has a stone cold policy on illegal entry. If you're caught, you are forcibly taken by the Aussie military to remote locations in the South Pacific, where you can either sit for years or to be deported home. Australia accepts less than 15,000 migrants a year on a humanitarian basis. Recently announced it would take 12,000 Syrian refugees on top of that, but even more recently, the Obama administration said it would take more than 2,000 refugees currently languishing in the South Pacific, human beings that Australia refuses to bring to its mainland. Now, my question is, why not? Why won't the Aussies take these poor people? Surely desperate people in South Asia, or Central America for that matter, deserve sympathy. During my time in El Salvador, I visited folks who were actually living in caves. Dogs in America have more comforts. Judeo-Christian philosophy compels its followers to embrace the poor, and it seems that rejecting asylum seekers and migrants goes against that tenet. Thus, the far left demonizes those who call for restrictions on illegal immigration, saying they're bad people. That's what the sanctuary city movement's all about. But you don't hear much condemnation of Australia. And inside that country, both political parties, liberals and conservatives, support the tough immigration laws. There's little moral debate. By the way, if Perth, for example, declared itself a sanctuary city, they have big trouble with the Aussie military, which, as I stated, actually enforces immigration law. And a general reports directly to the government in Canberra. Australians generally believe that undocumented migrants destabilize their country and put themselves at grave physical risk by crossing oceans to get down under. Also, Aussie politics have created a generous welfare state that works for a small population. That entitlement culture would be overwhelmed and go broke if mass illegal immigration was accepted, as it has been here in the USA. Simply put, Australians do not want the enormous disruption that immigration chaos causes. So, they're sending more than 2,000 poor souls here. Folks, they should assimilate, and Barack Obama is happy to take them. Are we chumps? Or are we the most compassionate nation on earth? President Trump will have his hands full trying to figure out how to get things under control on the immigration front. Here is what Talking Points recommends. A moratorium on refugees for 1 year until Trump's new Homeland Security Department can reorganize and set up intense vetting procedures. Right now, under the Obama administration, the feds cannot properly investigate refugees who want to come here. The system is broken. All undocumented people already here must register with the feds at their local post offices within 6 months. It becomes a felony if they fail to do that, and immediate deportation if they're caught unregistered. By the way, we told you very early on in the presidential campaign that mass deportations would not take place if Donald Trump were elected president. Speaker of the House Paul Ryan confirmed that yesterday.
We're not working on a deportation force. Here's what we're working on with respect to immigration: securing our border, enforcing our current laws. He talked about criminal aliens. But that's just enforcing laws for people who came here illegally, who came and committed violent crimes. We should enforce those laws.
Once the federal government knows how many undocumented people are here and their circumstance, a fair system of evaluating migrants can then take place, right? On the borders, all of them, caught trying to enter illegally will be bussed back into Mexico or Canada after being fingerprinted. Second offense, 6 months in jail. Bang. 6 months. Then another bus ride. A congressional mandate on how many foreign nationals should be allowed into America each year should be agreed upon. Let's get a number. And that number should be generous. But legal papers have to be renewed every year. And actual citizenship will have to be earned over a substantial period of time. A new law that suspends all federal transportation money to individual states that tolerate sanctuary cities must be passed by Congress. Must. Texas, now in the process of outlawing sanctuary cities, punishing them financially. Every state should do that. And if California says no, finance your own infrastructure. Same with all other defiant states. No money for transportation. Nothing from the federal government. You'll see how fast they change. Finally, build effective barriers along the southern border using the Army Corps of Engineers. The barriers designed to stop the flow of people and drugs illegally into this country. Come on, enough's enough. If I could help every poor person and abused person in the world, I would, but I can't. So I do what I can without making things worse by supporting policies that hurt the country at large. Australia has figured this out. We can too. And that's a memo. Next on the Rundown Reaction. Later, Donald Trump threatening another company and wants to move to Mexico. Is Mr. Trump continuing now with our lead story, a fair immigration plan? Joining us from Washington, Charles Krauthammer. Fair is the key word here. Any quibbles with the memo, Charles?
Well, there's a lot in the memo, so let me just say, I think you got to divide the problem in two. The first is to secure the border, meaning prevent new illegal immigrants from coming in. The second is, what do you do with those already here? I would postpone the second half of that because I think if you could secure the border, you would get a rush, you'd get a national consensus to be generous and humane and legalize the overwhelming majority of those already here. But you have to show Americans and the American people that this is the last time it's going to happen. Remember, they got swindled with the Reagan amnesty in 1986. They were told we're going to secure the border. They amnestied 3 million illegal immigrants. And of course, the amnesty went through. Shutting of the border did not. So I would emphasize a couple of things. I would include, I agree with you about the barrier. I think it should be a serious barrier, either a wall or a fence. I'd advocated this ever since 2006. But also, you've got to do interior enforcement bill. So many of the illegal immigrants are people who overstay the visa. You've got to have a visa tracking system. And the second is E-Verify. If people come across the border and they're coming here to work, if they can't find work because an E-Verify system automates the checking to see if they're legal, they're not going to come over.
It's not a foolproof system, as you know, though.
No,
we did it last week. We did a phony document segment on this program. Very easy to get. You can get a 3-pack in L.A. Everybody knows where to get it. So I like the E-Verify, but look, Trump has to present himself as a man who's not vindictive. Would you agree with that? He's not vindictive. I'm just want to protect the nation, right?
Well, I think you can make that case. By the way, on the E-Verify, what you're doing is you're doing layers. You don't expect any layer to catch everybody, and that's why you do one layer.
No, make it harder. I understand that, but
yeah, but I think
people think it's foolproof.
What you got to do, it doesn't matter how you present it. You got to have results. If I were Trump, I would institute these steps right away, working with Congress. You've got the majority. Do it. Finally, do it.
Punish the sanctuary cities, like I said?
Absolutely. I'd punch you. Absolutely.
Pull it right and say, look, Jerry Brown, hey, Jerry, hey, Jerry, You're not getting any money for LA or San Diego. Well, San Diego's not a sanctuary city, I don't think. Or San Francisco, you're not getting any money. All right, so you and your high-tech train that you want to build, you forget it. All right, you'll be lucky if you have a skateboard when we get
First
to you.
First of all, Bill,
Yeah.
the high-speed train, I would cancel one way or the other. It's ridiculous. But second, you notice how these liberals who want to do the sanctuary cities are speaking the language of the Southern segregationists, the language of nullification and interposition, which incidentally was the language of the Confederates.
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting point, but
And
it's
that's
way,
they're saying
it's
we're
way
not-
too over my head.
We live in a federal system.
I know,
The
it's way
feds
over
say-
my head. I can't grasp what you're saying, so let's get back to something I can understand. Okay, why is Australia a racist nation? They got 24 million people. We have 300 million more people. It's the same landmass. And now we have to take 2,000 people that they shipped off to some island. We have to take them. They can't take 2,000 people. What's going on over there?
Look, you're right about the racist. Until a generation ago, Australia had an explicit policy of white Australia for legal immigrants. So
They don't do that
this
anymore,
is
though.
No, that a generation ago, but nonetheless, it's not something that you would have had here. But look, I think people understand if you can be generous, once you've secured the border, you can be generous with the people here. I would not ask them to register, Bill.
I would.
You're going to cause all kinds of social, unless you've got a plan.
I have a plan.
Well, it would be John Bolton
The
or
ambassador.
David Petraeus. Well, he may not be. You asked me who's the most qualified.
Okay.
And the second choice would be David Petraeus.
And they're both good choices. Charles, thank you. Directly ahead, another American Impact segment tonight with Donald Trump achieving a big PR victory by stopping the Carrier Corporation from nearly moving 1,000 jobs to Mexico. There's major buzz in the American corporate structure. Now a company named Rexnord, also from Indiana, says it will fire 300 workers and move its ball-bearing business to Monterrey, Mexico. Mr. Trump has tweeted that would be vicious.
I prayed, God, just give me something that I could hold on to, some hope. And then he tweeted.
To Rexnord employee Brian Bossum, this late-night tweet from President-elect Donald Trump was a small sign. It said, Rexnord of Indiana is moving to Mexico and rather viciously firing all of its 300 workers. This is happening all over our country. No more.
And joining us now, Boston, Marianne Marsh, here in New York City, Katie Pavlich. So, Governor Sarah Palin, a conservative, is against all this strong-arming the corporations and, if you move, you're going to get slapped with a 35% tariff and all of that. That's a conservative side. Liberals say, Trump is a fascist or whatever. What do you say?
Well, the left is going to complain about anything that Donald Trump does
Yes.
at this point.
That's why I led with Palin.
Right. On Sarah Palin's aspect, there is a very serious conservative economic principle here, and that is that it's great that Donald Trump is able to keep some of these companies here on a case-by-case basis, but that's not sustainable long-term. He's got to be able to level the playing field for all companies in the country so that everyone is able to make their own decisions rather than the government
But
picking winners
then we're
and
going to
losers.
lose because of worldwide economics. You're
Well, that's
going to
not necessarily
lose
true.
thousands and thousands of manufacturing jobs. Sure it is.
No,
The
not if
reason
you-
the ball bearing, this ball bearing plant is moving down to Monterey is it cuts its labor by a third.
Well,
by
look,
a third.
but let's look at what costs businesses that kind of money in this country. Regulations by the Obama administration, 21,000 new
No, it's
regulations.
labor
on
costs.
business. Labor costs too, but guess what? That's a result of regulation. These overtime rules the president has put into place just in the last year, just blocked by a judge. The EPA
that's not
also
gonna
costs
receive.
businesses money. There are things
All right,
that
so
cost
you're
companies
against-
money that you can take away to level the playing field.
You're against Trump twisting these people's arms, threatening with a tariff. You're against that.
I think he should level the playing field for
I don't know
everyone.
what level of playing field means. You're against the 35% tariff, yes or no?
I'm against him picking winners and losers. I'm against him taxing 35% because ultimately that will be passed on to consumers.
Nobody will buy their
not
ball
the company.
bearings. No, but they'll buy other ball bearings. They won't
exactly.
buy them because not
Right.
everybody's going to get 30%.
Well, and the cost has to be
All
paid
right.
for somewhere.
Marianne, you say?
Well, look, I'm for anybody trying to save anybody's job, and especially blue-collar jobs like the folks in Indiana, every single time. The question is, as Charles said in the last segment, what's Trump going to do? Because now he's set a precedent. For every company who threatens to leave the country, they're going to come to him with a ransom note and say, here's what it's going to cost you to keep me here, and then Trump's going to try to have to pay it again and again and again.
Well, you don't know
with
what he's going
cash
to
and
do.
incentives
You don't
and all
know if
this.
he'll do the same thing every time.
That's
but
the point.
It's the 35%.
That's the point. You don't know what he's going to do.
Well, you know what he's going to do on one front, what I just grilled Katie about. He's going. You served with General Mattis in Iraq. You're friends with him to this day. But I need to know what the friction was between the general and President Obama.
Well, multiple points, no doubt. First, the Iranian treaty, which in my mind is nearly treasonous. Secondly, the committed amount of troops is that we were too light. We remained too light. The military all asked for more troops in Afghanistan. He didn't get them. And he understands, if we're going to fight, then fight to win.
Okay, let me stop you. So, General Mattis didn't like the nuke deal that Kerry put together? He didn't like it?
Well, I'm sure, in multiple times he testified before Congress. He properly identified the threat is Iran. It's always been the principal threat. And this deal that was made, the president lied about how bad it was, and as we're still finding information.
Does Mattis
how really bad
believe
that?
Does Mattis believe the commander-in-chief lied to the American people? Does he believe it?
He's going to be asked that question, I'm sure, in his confirmation hearings. But I know he's upset. And the other thing is, Mattis he understands the strength of our military is the sergeant and the chief. And when we don't have the necessary resources at the front line, that concerns Mattis.
Okay.
And Mattis is going to have
let's
one
get
heck
there,
of a job.
So So General Mattis is in Afghanistan, and President Obama draws down, and Mattis objects to that drawing down. He didn't want to remove those troops from Afghanistan.
Well, when you're going to fight, you got to fight to win. And if you draw the troops down so much, what you become is a defensive posture. You're not heavy enough to take it to the Taliban and go on offense. Nor are you heavy enough if one of our troops gets hurt, then you got to bring them out with our helicopters. That means you need support. And the logistics footprint of moving the needle is significant. But we continuously draw the troops down in numbers, even though all the military commanders are saying we need more at the front line.
All right, but that goes against President Obama wanting to end all these wars, bring back the U.S. Military presence over there, because his party wants that. They don't want to be in Iraq and Afghanistan. How bad was the friction between Mattis and Obama? Was it personal? Did it get nasty?
Well, as a four-star, it's either you move up or out. And having a four-star who doesn't believe in your policies, on foreign shores is one thing. Having them in the Pentagon and at home is another. So I think the president, he certainly can choose as a commander-in-chief. I didn't think he wanted General Mattis around to dispute the policies. And first of all, what's our policy? The military is supposed to support a policy. We are rudderless as far as our policy. We don't have a policy in the Middle East. What's our policy in Syria or expanding Iran or Iraq? And we're playing it, by play without knowing where the end zone is. And Mattis is a type of warrior that, number one, respects policy, and number two, tell me what the policy is, and I'll put the military in force to make sure that we win.
All right, Congressman, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. When we come right back, actress Bo Derek trying to save animals all over the world. She also appeared in a movie with Donald Trump. We got this clip. You'll see it nowhere else. Ms. Derek will be here. The water's on what folks want for Christmas this year. Those reports.